All the way back in episode 13, Neil and I discussed the famous Skinwalker Ranch, reportedly one of the most paranormal places on the planet. We touched briefly in that episode about one of the previous owners, Robert Bigelow, the multi-millionaire with an interest in the paranormal. Today, we are focusing far more on Robert Bigelow and his various bits of work, including the National Institute for Discovery Science and his various other interests. So join myself and Neil here on Aliens Explored as we discuss the life and works of Robert Bigelow. And this week's episode is dedicated to our Explorer of the Week. This week it is Jonathan Perna. Jonathan has been supporting us right from the start when we first launched our Patreon. So thank you, Jonathan. Now, if you too want to be one of our Patreon supporters, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Aliens Explored and pick a tier that suits you. We've got all kinds of goodies and rewards and awards available to suit most pockets and most people. So do have a look. That's patreon.com/Aliens Explored. Link in the description. But this week particularly is dedicated, as I say, to our Explorer of the Week, Jonathan Perna.
Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions, and other strange events from both a believing and a skeptical perspective, whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it? Hello listeners and welcome to another episode of Aliens Explored, your weekly look at the mysterious skies and the universe beyond. I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Stu Jackson. It's really interesting. We both happen by accident to be wearing our Central Utah Paranormal t-shirts today.
We are, yeah. Thanks to Ben for that. And we are going to be talking about, something that part of this story happens in Utah.
It does.
Because this week we're talking about Robert Bigelow, the mysterious. Well, we previously referred to him as the mysterious billionaire who bought Skinwalker Ranch that we that we covered in episode 13 of Aliens Explored. If anyone wants to refer back to it, do it a bit of revision, or perhaps listen to it for the first time.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, Robert Bigelow himself is not quite so mysterious as the bloke that bought Skinwalker Ranch from him, I think, Brandon Fugel. But yeah, or at least back when we did episode 13, Brandon Fugel was still quite mysterious. I think he's less mysterious now. Maybe we'll do an episode on him in the future.
Maybe.
Knows?
But yeah. Well, he's not so interesting now that he's less mysterious, is he? But we dealt with mysterious stuff.
Well, he is. Well, there's a lot of mystery surrounding Skinwalker Ranch, so maybe we'll revisit that. Who knows? But yeah, Robert Bigelow. Well, Robert Bigelow's had quite the history in terms of sort of paranormal connections and ufology. Of course, we're referring to him as a billionaire. He's not quite a billionaire. He's worth apparently $700 million.
Oh, that's a bit short, isn't it?
So he's a little bit short on billionaire, but definitely multi-millionaire. Not short of a bob or two.
Not short of a bob or two. Does he like another famous property developer, Donald Trump? Does he insist on being referred to as the billionaire Robert Bigelow, or is he
not
a bit more circumspect?
Not that I'm aware of. So yeah, I mean they're both like he's got something in common with Trump, hasn't he? Because they're both hoteliers.
Real estate people. You basically buy something with the money you've got, or you can borrow you can borrow money based on the money you've got, and buy property and charge rents. So I mean, this guy goes way back from the late 1960s to the late 1960s, developing commercial real estate, hotels, motels, and apartments.
He does indeed. And unlike Donald Trump, he hasn't been bankrupt several times and depended on daddy's money. Not a fan of Trump. Anyone listening can probably tell, but there we go.
But some of our listeners probably are, so let's not
absolutely.
This probably isn't the place to get a dig in on Donald. So, now, Robert Bigelow has been interested in space travel. Apparently, at age 12, he decided that that's where his future lay, and his real estate career has been towards raising the cash to develop that, to build he wanted to build the first commercial space station, and he reckoned he could build that at a third of the cost that NASA spent on a single space shuttle mission. That's quite an ambition,
statement, isn't it?
Quite a bold statement. We know that these things get cheaper, don't we? I imagine the second space shuttle launch cost less than the first one, and so on downwards.
It does, because you've got infrastructure there already that you can reuse and things like that. But maybe. And yes, Bigelow Aerospace is a big concern. But so focusing more on his sort of the paranormal and ufology side of things.
Because that's why we're here.
That is why we are here. In 1995, he set up the National Institute for Discovery Science. It ran for 9 years. Now, this was an organization that focused on looking at two quite, in my head at least, disparate areas of ufology. Cat mutilations and black triangle UFOs. Now, why he wasn't looking at UFOs in the grander scheme of things, I don't know, but specifically looking at black triangles and cat mutilations.
Yeah, that's quite specific, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, they're both valid areas of ufology.
But they're not necessarily associated with each other, aren't they?
Not particularly. Certainly no connection that I've ever been aware of. So it is quite a strange one. Now, when that shut down in 2004, though, they had come to the conclusion... I've not seen any reports or read any sort of detailed findings, but they've come to the general conclusion that black triangle UFOs were secret military aircraft. Which is...
Well, I suppose all military aircraft are secret while they're being developed, aren't they? Until they're actually put into use, and then they'll start working on the next thing. I mean, I remember when the Challenger space shuttle blew up, and one of the things that was said was that this shuttle used old technology because it takes so long to design and build one of these things that it's based on technology that's 20 years out of date. That they're already working on the next big thing that will use today's technology, but by the time that's built, that technology will be out of date. So you're always playing catch up. So the secretive advanced aircraft operated by the military, they're presumably using what's cutting edge technology now, by the time they come into service in, who knows, 10, 15 years' time, they'll be looking at other technologies. I don't know why I said all that. but yeah, and then
I think it's relevant to the whole black triangle UFO thing because certainly black triangle UFOs exhibit exhibit traits that aren't always easily explained by current kind of what's out there with aircraft. Incredible size craft moving incredibly slowly and silently, for example. We still don't know how that happens. So maybe in 20 years' time, the military might come out with an aircraft that, is the size of a football field, black triangular in shape and move silently. And although those have been seen over the last sort of 30, 40 years, so maybe
I can't think of an immediate battlefield application for a giant football pitch-sized aircraft, unless it's it's impervious to missiles.
Carrying, carry a lot of missiles and a lot of bombs.
It can, but then it's all taken out with one missile. Aren't you better off having lots and lots of smaller aircraft, and then each one needs its own separate missile to take it down? I mean, as we found out in the Falklands War, and probably wars since, it only takes one missile or one torpedo, and doesn't matter what the size of the ship is, whether it's a small frigate or an enormous battleship, it goes to the bottom of the ocean.
Well, it's got to be a missile in the right place, hasn't it? Isn't there that thing about World War II aircraft pilots? I'm sure we talked about this long time ago on an episode where they'd come back like absolutely shot to pieces, like, huge areas of the aircraft just completely missing where it had been, but it was still flying. And he said, well, it's the areas that's left that we need to reinforce, Because it'll still fly if you
go to the War Museum and see, you look inside some of these aircraft like a Hurricane or a Spitfire, you'll see that the cockpit is quite well protected. Certainly the seat the pilot sits in is bulletproof from behind. You look at the size of the rounds that these. They're almost the size of small beer bottles. Some of these rounds, they will rip you to tiny pieces. And of course, I mean, I know that the difference between a Spitfire and a Hurricane, which made the Hurricane so much more usable in the Battle of Britain, was that the Hurricane was made out of wood with a canvas kind of covering. So when it got shot to pieces, it was quite easy to patch up. Whereas a Spitfire was made of aluminium, and it was a much more, when that got a few bullet holes in it, it was a much more complicated. You basically got to replace the part. So much more expensive, and it's out of service for longer.
So the size of a black triangle UFO, it doesn't matter how big it is. It's easily repaired and the bullet just goes through anyway. But it's anything of importance.
Since the Korean War, planes haven't really fired bullets at each other because the planes fly too fast. So they'll fire a heat-seeking missile, which will go straight for the engines. It'll go straight to the heat source, and that will take that always takes them out.
That's fair. But coming back, I mean, so we've gone off topic quite a bit.
Yeah, sorry, I just wondered why you would want a football pitch-sized combat aircraft.
I don't know.
Unless you carry a massive bomb.
But it does sound a bit like all black triangle UFOs are secret military. I don't know. That doesn't quite sound right to me, but hey,
I mean, we never really resolved whether these giant black triangles were actually three separate craft flying in a triangular formation, and that people would just fill in the space in between with an imagined shape.
Yeah,
it's just a trick of the eye.
There are cases of that happening. I'm certain. But the interesting thing is they've come up with this. So the National Institute of Discovery Science came up with this result about black triangles. No mention about cattle mutilations.
No.
So I'm guessing they didn't come to any conclusion about that.
The year after Bigelow founded the National Institute for Discovery Science, that was when he bought Skinwalker Ranch, located in Utah. And that's where, as we said in episode 13, that's where it's purportedly the site of interdimensional shapeshifters. Did they mutilate cattle?
Cattle mutilations is a big...
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if interdimensional shapeshifters are mutilating cattle. What we do know is that cattle mutilation is a common theme of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, so I can understand why, if he's bought Skinwalker Ranch as an ongoing business as part of his property portfolio, that he's going to be very interested in researching cattle mutilation, because I imagine you lose quite a lot of beef stock to that kind of thing. Can you sell an animal? Can you sell the meat from an animal that's been ripped apart by a paranormal shapeshifter? You'd have to
question.
You'd have to put that on the labelling, wouldn't you?
Yeah, one for the FDA.
The butchers to buy the meat. So, yes, this one. Yeah.
may contain alien contaminants. Yeah. And have those aliens been near nuts, Neil? That's what we need to know.
Well, yes, of course, yeah.
I have no answers for that whatsoever. But yeah, it is interesting. Like I said, 2004, when they do the final reports and everything. No, not mentioning cattle mutilation. So, so that's that. So yeah, but yes, so Bigelow buys. Yeah, it's around 96, isn't it? He buys Skinwalker Ranch. It all goes a bit quiet and dark in terms of what's happening on the ranch, on what kind of research he's doing. But what I found really, really interesting looking into this is in 2008, a local senator, a state senator visits Skinwalker Ranch with Robert Bigelow. Shortly after then, he gets Bigelow involved in ATIP.
The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. So this was nearly 20 years later. It was 20 years, December 2017.
2008.
Okay, I've got December 2017, reported by the New York Times to have urged Senator Harry Reid. Just the New York Times found out about it.
Yes, a lot of this is like it wasn't talked about at the time. Now ATIP, of course, is quite heavily associated with a lot of ufology. A lot of big names in ufology, like your Luis Elizondo's and that were involved with ATIP at some point.
I imagine that the slant that ATIP would be coming from in studying UFOs would be just to make sure that it's not a terrestrial rival power that has developed the technology to penetrate US airspace with impunity.
Theoretically, but also it could be a front for investigating UFOs as well.
It could be, but the word is threat, isn't it? We're not studying who might be coming to look at us.
And if craft are visiting the planet and its inhabitants are taking people at random or seemingly at random with impunity, that's a threat.
It is, yeah. It is is it a national threat, really? Do they really care about these people?
An international threat, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of alien
global
abductions,
threat.
Has it ever happened to someone who Robert Bigelow might care about?
Not that I've ever heard. Not that I've ever heard. But, I mean, certainly there's no sort of public connection with Robert Bigelow and alien abductions. It's me that's making that sort of connection in terms of a threat analysis.
I'm thinking it more in terms of they're more worried about that China or Russia develops some advanced craft that can outperform American aircraft and air defense systems.
could be an international threat. It could be an extra global threat. Who knows? A threat's a threat, surely. Yeah. But I find the timing of that particularly interesting, though. So the senator visits, and then shortly after then, he gets put onto ATIP. Isn't that convenient?
Well, Bigelow he's a big political donor, isn't he? He most recently donated $10 million to Ron DeSantis in Florida, who had the biggest win of the midterm elections for the Republicans, and earned the ire of Donald Trump for that. He's also contributed over $25 million to groups and causes supporting Joe Lombardo's candidacy for the governor of Nevada.
Okay.
So experts believe this may be the most a single donor has spent on a statewide race in modern history. Don't they have a cap on it? Isn't there a maximum you're allowed to donate?
Oh, I know far too little about American politics for that. Perhaps one of our listeners can write in and let us know.
I mean, most democracies have at least officially some kind of cap on the amount that can be donated, so that elections don't just get won by the richest people every time.
And yet that happens anyway.
But that happens anyway, yeah.
But yeah, that's okay. I honestly didn't know about any of that. It's interesting Nevada's in there because, of course, you've got Area 51 and connections
and Skinwalker Ranch
and Skinwalker Ranch. So yeah, that's interesting. But what I'm wondering is, but ATIP isn't about buying your way in, because there are lots of people who've been involved who aren't political donors. I'm just wondering what the senator saw on his visit that made him think, Robert Bigelow's the chap we want on this.
And he's also a Democrat.
Okay.
So Harry Mason Reid. That was who Robert Bigelow urged to initiate what became ATIP. So this is not a party political thing, but they described ATIP as a study which operated for 5 years, from 5 or 6 years, 2007 to 2012.
Yeah.
And Bigelow said he was absolutely convinced that extraterrestrial life exists. I don't think that's too controversial in all the sort of vastness of the universe. That's not really sticking a neck out very far. But to further say that extraterrestrials have visited Earth, that's that's quite likely.
Taking that quote, which I think is from 2017, if I remember rightly, he went on to say, "And they are right under our noses."
Did he say that?
He did say that. That's part of the same interview and that. But that's, I mean, to be fair, he was talking about his belief. He wasn't saying, I've got proof. He was just saying, that's what I believe. Because it was a question like, well, hang on, you're like this serious businessman. Aren't you worried about like people not taking you so seriously? Basically, I don't give a shit. I don't care. But I mean, it's his general attitude. All kudos to him for that.
But I mean, if, for instance, you were a property developer or a property magnate and you had millions to spare, wouldn't you have gone down to Wiltshire and bought a farm where crop circles appeared regularly, so you could have it for yourself? In the same way that he bought Skinwalker Ranch because he'd heard of these paranormal phenomena, and thought,
that would be. If I was a multi-millionaire, why not? Why wouldn't I?
Buy a haunted house because I'm interested in paranormal phenomena.
It's that kind of thing, isn't it? But it makes you wonder, why then did he sell Skinwalker Ranch in 2018?
after 22 years. Well, maybe nothing came of it. Maybe he didn't get to see any shapeshifters.
Or maybe he did. I mean, certainly the people who investigate Skinwalker Ranch, it's all coming out now because, well, since our episode about Skinwalker Ranch, you've had this TV series, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Oh, that's what it's called here in the UK. I think in America it's The Curse of Skinwalker Ranch. The series is called. And you've had like 3 seasons of it now, where Brandon Fugel is basically, he's set up a team of investigators. I think he's calling himself the lead investigator or something. So, so that our listeners understand, it's not a series that is readily available here in the UK. We sort of can get access to it, but it's
It'll cost you.
It'll cost you, is the bottom line. So I'm actually planning to get it on DVD, so that I can watch it.
Maybe he just thought, or maybe he just thought it was a money loser, or maybe something happened that frightened him, and he thought, I don't want anything more to do with this. I want to get rid of it. I read this article a few months ago, a couple of years ago, it was about this couple who were selling their house.
Mm-hmm.
Was it no? A couple who they had this house, and this guy wanted to buy it, so he convinced them that it was haunted. He set up all these little sort of devices and whatever, and would sort of creep around at night and do weird shit there, to convince them that their house was haunted. So they would sell it priced for a quick sale, and it happened. They sold their house, and I thought that is literally the plot of every single episode of Scooby-Doo. Didn't they know that?
Oh, and he'd have got away with it if it wasn't.
And he got away with it. And there weren't any darn kids, darn meddling kids around, so he got away with it, yeah?
Well, I'm guessing he didn't get away with it because you know the story.
I guess, yeah. Somehow he got found out. There was some legal dispute later. It was found out what he was doing. But, yeah. I wonder if it's a similar kind of thing with Skinwalker Ranch. Someone put the wind up him. Someone pretending to be a some other property magnate hired some actor to pretend to be a shapeshifter to go and frighten him.
Well, to be fair, Skinwalker Ranch is 512 acres, so that would have to be quite the team that you get.
Yeah, but you've only got to go up to the house, haven't you? Or hire some people to rip a couple of cattle.
Most of the incidents don't happen at the main. I think there are like a number of different properties on the ranch. But yeah, most of the
frighten them, get them to go running to their landlord and say, we want to sell up.
Well, it is a big concern, I know, for the investigators, sort of talking publicly about some of the events that they've seen, because they call them hitchhikers. And there is this concern, and it seems to have happened, from what I understand, where they will talk about incidents that they've seen. And that act of talking about it means that basically that incident follows them to their house, and they start having incidents at their home as well. So, yeah, it's a tricky one, that. But yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, the whole he encounters something that frightened him. Well, the guy's rich enough. He doesn't have to live there himself. He can just send teams of people. He can pay people to go and investigate. So that shouldn't put him off. Not finding anything, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
When did he sell it? He sold it in
2018.
2018, because he did sell a shed load of properties just before the 2008 crash.
Oh yeah,
he unloaded
this wasn't
much
one
of his
them.
housing stock in the boom years, and said at the time, people just really wanted to throw money away. So that was lucky. Well, it was lucky, because it was at its peak. I mean, I wonder how much toxic debt he had on board that he was able to offload. Because
Indeed.
I mean, some people did manage that. I mean, isn't that what caused the crash? That suddenly everyone panicked and started selling off, and the prices got higher and higher and higher and higher, and all the experts were warning. And
well, they'd oversaturated the subprime market, is my understanding, and there were too many defaults suddenly, which then led to people panicking and foreclosing early, and that kind of.
Well, it was predictable because when I first had a mortgage, it was the repayments, the interest payments were at a fixed rate for 2 years, but I was tied into that mortgage for 5 years. So after 2 years, it just goes the rates just go to market prices, and my interest payments doubled in the next year. As soon as that 2 years was over, and you can see that there will be lots of people who would have mortgages on that basis. When that grace period ends, that low interest rate ends, and they're going to suddenly find it unaffordable, and they're going to default.
Yeah.
So you can see it coming, and there were a lot of people in the finance industry who said, "Well, I saw it coming, but." The shareholders just wanted me. If I hadn't kept on doing what they wanted me to do, which is to keep investing, they would have just got rid of me and got someone else who was prepared to do it. So I just kept on doing it.
Often the way.
And then that was his excuse. Yeah.
But no, this Skinwalker Ranch wasn't anything to do with that, because it was 2018.
No. 2018.
When he sold it to Adamantium Estates and Brendan Fugel. I'm not sure of the pronunciation, to be honest.
Adamantium, is that an element? Is that a new element that they've?
I believe so. I only know adamantium, to be honest, from the X-Men stuff. That's what Wolverine's bones are coated in.
Adamantium.
Yeah,
I remember Up an Atom, Adamant.
Adamant. I remember
was he
Adamant
or I never knew if he was Adamant or Atamant, because Americans often pronounce the T as a D.
They do.
And
I remember Adamant the singer.
Adamant the singer. That was definitely Adam. But he didn't have atomic sort of powers, did he? He was.
Don't know. Something put him in the charts. Anyway, So there's one more. So since selling up Skinwalker Ranch, Robert Bigelow seems to have gone really dark in terms of ufology. It does. It makes me wonder what he's found there that he's suddenly shut down. Now, he hasn't walked away from sort of the paranormal as a whole. He's still very much involved with that. In fact, he's got a big $1 million award available to anyone who can provide proof of an afterlife.
Yeah.
So he's more into ghosts and spirits and the eternal soul. Mind you, the guy's 78 years old?
Yeah, but
the mind starts turning that way at a certain age, doesn't it?
The skinwalkers, the shapeshifters, that could be just as much. It doesn't have to be. They didn't necessarily arrive on a black triangular spaceship. That they could be, they're interdimensional hobgoblins or wicked fairies or whatever.
Well, who knows?
It's the paranormal, isn't it? It's shapeshifters, vampires, whatever.
To be fair, although it's called Skinwalker Ranch, the whole Skinwalker sighting thing is just one small part of the entire, we'll call it the paranormal events that happen at Skinwalker Ranch. That's just one part of it.
And in fact, Skinwalker, as we said back in episode 13, is part of a Navajo legend concerning vengeful shamans. You've pissed off the witch doctor.
But in terms of UFO sightings at Skinwalker Ranch, cattle mutilations, again, as we've said, and all manner of strangeness, there's it's kind of it's one of the most paranormal sites on the planet, they reckon.
Well, and yet he sold it and they went quiet. Maybe he saw nothing and thought, well, sod it. I've owned the most paranormal site on the planet for the last 20 odd years. I haven't seen anything paranormal. I'm giving it up. I'm going to take up fishing instead.
Well, from what I understand, Brandon Fugel has found quite a bit there. According to this TV show, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, or like I say, or The Curse of Skinwalker Ranch, for our US listeners. I'll be finding out more about that when I get the DVD and I can watch it. Interesting. So he has stuck with the paranormal. Maybe he reached a dead end either by getting answers or
not getting answers.
Or not getting answers. Who knows?
We don't.
Intriguing fellow. I'd love to meet him. And
yeah,
I'm sure I wouldn't get many answers out of him.
Robert, if you're listening, get in touch. We'd love to have you on the show.
Yes, we would. Can't afford to pay you, but hey, you've got enough money already.
Yeah, maybe you could pay. Maybe you could pay us.
Yeah, can we have a loan? Oh dear. But yes, what do you think of Robert Bigelow, though, listeners? Is he at the leading edge of paranormal research? Is he just a chap who's got a screw loose, maybe? Or is there something else about the chap that we've not covered?
A rich guy who has the same interests as probably anyone listening to this, but with a lot more money to kind of pursue his interest in it.
Absolutely. Do let us know what you think via the usual means. You can contact us on Facebook and on Twitter by searching Aliens Explored. You can find us on YouTube. And if you're listening to this, do us a favour, go over to our YouTube channel. The link's in the description below. And do like and subscribe on YouTube. And we'd be very, very appreciative of that. So just launched... or quite recently at the time of recording, not long since launched the official Aliens Explored YouTube channel. We were on the back of Fegel Films, but now it's got its own YouTube channel, so we're trying to build that at the moment. So do give us a like and subscribe, please. And that'd be very, very nice. And in fact, leave us a bit of a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That certainly helps podcasts like ours.
Much
and of course, the other way, while we're on the subject of asking for all this help, I'm going to mention the Patreon as well.
Please do.
Patreon.com/Aliens Explored. There's all sorts of tiers and rewards there. And of course, you get exclusive access to our Discord server where you can chat with a very, very select bunch of people about this and other subjects that we discuss and anything to do with ufology, in fact. So do go along and have a look at that as well. All the links in the description below and our email address as well, aliensexplored@gmail.com. Join us next time, though, when we'll be going back in time yet again to 76 BC. And we'll be looking at Pliny the Elder's UFO report.
Wow.
Don't miss that one.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Indeed. In the meantime, keep watching these multi-millionaires and what they're up to in terms of UFO research. And of course, keep watching the skies. Take care for now.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Aliens Explored is a Fecal Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter or Facebook by searching Aliens Explored or visit us on aliensexplored.com.